those of you who aren't familiar with the Alliance, we were started back in 2015 when Coatesville celebrated its 100th anniversary as a third-class city. 18 community stakeholders came together at that time with a collective interest in ensuring that the city's second century would be economically prosperous. Since then, we've developed a plan, a comprehensive plan, which you should have at the tables. You can grab one. To meet the mission of that prosperous future for Coatesville. So we're the city's partner in community and economic development, and a big part of this plan is communication. And to that end, we host these events to keep this community informed of relevant activities that are happening in the city. So thank you all for being here. Your attendance helps us spread the word. So feel free to take out your phones, log on to Facebook or Twitter, any of your social media platforms, and start sharing away. We're actually, thanks to Mitchell here from Vista today, live streaming this on Facebook. So if you want to post, feel free to do so. At this point, I'd like to introduce some of our esteemed elected officials that are with us today. We have State Representative Dan Williams. We have Amarillo Turner from Pat Toomey's office. We have Council President Linda Lavender Norris. Did I miss anyone? I didn't see anybody else from council. Great, thank you as well for being here. So, I want to go over some of the parameters for this event today, for those of you who haven't been to one of these. If you're unfamiliar with the format, to be respectful of everybody's time, we move through these presentations pretty quickly. And we want each presenter to introduce the next presenter so we're not wasting time up and back to the podium. Also, we're going to ask that everyone hold their questions till the very end, till after everyone has made their presentation. Now that we know the rules, I'd like to introduce our supporting sponsor. Matt, are you? The Matt Gorham Group continues to sponsor these events. This is the third one that we've held, and the Matt Gorham Group has been incredibly supportive of the Second Century Alliance. So Matt.
Thank you, Sonny. Appreciate your leadership. Hey team, come on up here, because it is the Matt Gorham Group, it is not me. We're a local real estate team, and we love supporting the Coatesville community. With me, I have a few members from our team today. We have Eric McGee, we have Brian Maloney, who also graduated from Coatesville, my wife Amanda, and Steve Turner. We have 3 other associates that also graduated Coatesville. So Coatesville is part of our ministry and part of our mission. We believe that making home ownership possible for folks that don't believe that it's possible is greatly, it's terribly important to their family trees and to our community to grow. We're a big fan of the Second Century Alliance. We're really thankful for that. We believe that as business owners in the Coatesville area that we need to step up and sponsor things like this and lead and be present. So if there's ever anything we can do to help you, anything on the real estate side, we live here, we breathe here. Sometimes we bleed here if we trip on the steps or something, but that's what we do. So please feel free to ask us any questions if there's anything we can do to help you in the community. We usually know a lot of the things that are going on from block to block and area to area. One thing that we're doing is partnering with the Western Chester County Chamber of Commerce to sponsor the Reading Phillies game on August 8th. If you know somebody that would like some tickets, we'd be happy to give them.
Public money will provide infrastructure improvements through various new streets, new sidewalks, sewers, water, other public infrastructure improvements. There's two issues that came up for the flats. The flats, as you know, is our largest redevelopment site in the city. It's been around for many, many years. You know, we're looking forward to something really cracking there. There had been an initiative to do a baseball stadium on the property. At this time, that's probably going to the rear of the projects, but they still seem as though they have a path, so we haven't given up on that yet, but it's probably moving to the rear of the pack. We have some new initiatives that have been coming forward because of the opportunity zones, which will be brought up, we discussed a little later with David, and we are very optimistic that this will help move forward these projects on the flats, and we do have a confidential project now, which is gaining speed, and we hope to be able to move forward with that. Can't answer a question on that because it's confidential. So this is really the infrastructure slide. I call it under the surface. You know, mostly unseen until there's a problem with your infrastructure. Your lights go out. You know, we have outages and lights go out. Water doesn't run. You turn on your spigot. And there's no water that comes out through the piping, or the streets flood, or your roads flood. So, you know, we're working on various projects in the city which you don't see because most of it's in the ground, under the street, you know, behind the scenes with our engineers and with our other stakeholders. So we do we're required by the federal government to do what's called an MS4 stormwater management program. So we're working through that with our engineer, and that will provide stormwater systems in the city too. Okay, I got my time note here. So that's one initiative. PECO is currently investing a lot of funding in upgrading their lines in the city, their gas lines, and the water company continues, our PA American Water Company continues to move forward on that. So, thank you. Rita Perez, or? Yes.
Good afternoon, evening. My name is Rita Perez. I'm the Director of People Services for the Coatesville Area School District. And I have with me tonight Mike Sebastiak, who's the Director of Technology for the school district. And we're going to be giving you some updates on what's happening in Coatesville for the school district. So we want to congratulate the class of 2019. We had a fantastic evening to celebrate the graduates. Wonderful speeches and just a wonderful evening overall. So we congratulate them. That was in June. Mike, would you like to talk about the T-Mobile, please?
So back around April of this year, we applied for a grant with T-Mobile that would supply or would grant us, award us $200 per student we applied for, as well as internet services for every student for 24 months. That was either free or a reduced cost. So we got that price down to $5 per student per month on average. The $200 really ends up being about $40 per student. With that money, that's about $200,000 check to the district that we use to get Chromebooks. So every student's going to wind up with a Chromebook. We've received all that equipment. It's currently being unboxed and prepped for deployment, and we anticipate that will be ready to go at the start of the school year.
Yeah, the exciting piece about this T-Mobile grant is that each of the Chromebooks is equipped with a hotspot. So when students go home, they have access to the internet. So this grant was really about opportunity and access for our students to make sure they all had the availability, equal availability to access the internet, access some of the technology that we use in school at home. And then over the course of this year, we'll be working with our teachers to provide training and doing some of those things so that we can use Google Classroom and use the computers more efficiently as part of instruction. But we're starting at first with making sure kids have access at home. So we're doing some facilities planning in the school district. You may have heard we closed South Brandywine Middle School this year. Last year we closed Friendship Elementary School. The reasons that both of those buildings really closed was that it was much too costly to repair the buildings. It would have been much more economical to close them down, redistrict with some of our students, and then plan to build some new facilities that were more state-of-the-art and modern with today's educational best practices. So this year we closed South Brandywine Middle School. We reconfigured our other two middle schools. Sixth graders will all attend Scott Middle School starting in August, and 7th and 8th graders will attend North Brandywine Middle School. We are looking forward to that because our students will then go from 5th grade in 5 neighborhood schools to 6th grade together, and will travel together through high school as a cohort and as a group of students together. So they'll form their friendships early in 6th grade. We'll be able to, move them around and get them involved with everyone in the building and get lots of friendships made. We know as educators, when students come from many different schools in 9th grade, it could be a cause of conflict because cliques are formed. We know what happens in middle school, right? Cliques are formed and all that, and people don't want to necessarily have new friendships. We are getting ready to take the next steps towards breaking ground behind Kings Highway Elementary School for the new Kings Highway. Our teachers were greeted with a virtual reality tour of what the building may look like at the end of the school year. It was pretty cool. You could really go in and out of the buildings and see out of the building, in and out of the classrooms, and see what that's going to look like, as well as the outdoor spaces. If you were if you're susceptible to seasickness, that was not cool. But it was pretty neat to see the technology and be able to kind of envision what students will experience in the building. We're excited. We're going to implement a K through 8. We already have this in the high school science curriculum called Project Lead the Way. It is a grant-funded program that provides training to our teachers, and then of course they provide instruction to our students. It is very STEM-based curriculum, very hands-on, and like I said, it's a grant-funded program. It's very minimal cost to the district, and we're really looking forward to having that opportunity for our students starting in August. I'm proud to say that we were the winner of something called a Magna Award. The National School Boards Association, which is the national group that oversees local state school boards associations and school boards, offers an award for school districts who are doing work in the area of equity and equitable access, and a program that and this is being a little shameless here, this is a program that I developed for our teachers, parents, and students, mainly our teacher leaders. We won the grand prize this year. We won in the middle category of school districts that have 5,000 to 20,000 students. We beat out Allentown School District, which is my former school district where I used to work many years ago. We won that award. We went and received that award at the end of April, and it came with a monetary prize of $5,000 to go towards more equity work. So we're using that to bring in a educational researcher and professor in the area of educational equity who will be with us on October 7th, and will be working with all of our teachers in this area of equity. We also were an honorable mention for Great Districts, Great Schools, the National Council on Teacher Quality for our professional development. Those of you who are not familiar, in school districts, we offer lots of professional development to our teachers, and the National Council of Teacher Quality saw fit to honor us for the work that we're doing in many different types of professional development that we offer to our teachers. We were beat out in Pennsylvania by Council Rock School District, so I say we're in very good company. I'm very proud of that work. Before and after school care. We were able to put out a bid this year for after school care for our students, and the winning group was a Child's Place, and they came in, they offer a very high quality program with a lot of structure, but also a lot of opportunity for our students to relax and engage in other types of activities. They also came in $60 less per month than the next provider. And after checking references and doing all of our due diligence, they were chosen. We're really excited to have them on board. They also offer a sliding scale, so there's scholarship available for students that may need that. And the little charter school update, we're striving daily to win back our students who have gone to charter. Public education has become a competitive business. Charter schools are public schools. And it has become a competitive business, so we have to work in that way to kind of bring our students back and let them know what's available for them. But for parents, something that may be beneficial to know is, number one, we have what's called a community eligibility school district. What that means is that all of our students in our school district, regardless of income, will receive free breakfast and lunch, K-12. You don't have to send in a form, you don't have to ask, everybody gets it, K-12, no matter what. For some parents who may be buying breakfast and lunch every day, that's a savings of about $700 a student if you bought breakfast and lunch every day. So that's pretty big. Then I just talked about the before and after care. Our principal's also very busy working on developing after-school clubs and programs and activities. A couple of our schools are involved in a 21st Century grant with the IU that will offer a whole different range of activities, so there's opportunities for students after school. One of the concerns that we've learned as we've talked to folks who have gone to charter school, they're concerned about discipline, especially at the elementary level. Our school board authorized us to hire elementary assistant principals for the 4 buildings that did not have an elementary assistant principal. And then also to hire elementary special ed supervisors who will also be in every building. That'll be their building, and they will work with our students with disabilities and their teachers to help provide support, classroom support, coaching, mentoring, and help with those pieces. Because the 2 things we heard was about discipline, and there were some concerns with our special education program. So we're really excited to do that. We've had some fantastic candidates come through. As administrators were involved in all parts of the hiring process and opportunities to interview them. And so the caliber of candidates and the mindset that they have is fantastic, and it's going to be really exciting. We've been doing kindergarten registration in a different way than we've done it in the past. In the past, we've offered kindergarten registration at the individual buildings. We've centralized that process where parents come in and they sit with either the assistant superintendent or our supervisor of student services, myself, reading specialist, and they actually talk to us about their child, what their concerns are, what their aspirations are for their child. While their child goes with the reading specialist, play some games, and the student, then they can be assessed with where they are, where their levels are. They get to pick out 4 or 5 books, they get a backpack, and then they get to stand in front of the big banner and get their photo taken as being a member of the class of 2032. And every time, I wish I had a nickel for every time I said a parent would cry, because I'd be rich. Because there's tears in eyes every time, and it's a fantastic experience. We get to know the families and the students as individuals, one-on-one, and it's been wonderful. So if you know of anybody in the community that has not yet registered for kindergarten, all they have to do is call our district office, make an appointment, and we will meet them and we will greet them and set them up with that and walk through the process. Okay, well, my time is up. I'm going to introduce David, and I'm not going to attempt your last name because I don't want to do.
Go ahead, take a shot.
I won't. We'll learn about
She can.
Thank you.
Thank you to Sunny and the Second Century Alliance for allowing me to bring some good information, I think, to the city and its residents. I want to talk a little bit about the Federal Opportunity Zone program, which is a new program created about a little year and a half ago, which has some tremendous potential for the city of Coatesville. So the program was authorized back in December of 2017, first new major federal economic and community development program in, I don't know, maybe 20 years or more. It was a bipartisan process. In fact, the original legislation was in an act that got incorporated into this, and 2 of the principal sponsors were Senator Tim Scott from South Carolina, Senator Cory Booker from New Jersey. So it's clearly a bipartisan event, and I think everyone has looked at it that way. And what's interesting about this is usually when the federal government gets involved, it means there's some kind of government grant. That's not the case here. This is all private sector funding, and I'll explain that more in just a second. So what's the purpose of the Opportunity Zone? It's very simple. Communities like Coatesville and urban areas in general, as well as rural areas, have seen a disappearance, if you will, private sector investment in many different ways. So the purpose of this program is to figure a way to encourage private sector investment to come back to places like Coatesville. Basically, the Opportunity Zone program is a tool. It's a tool to bring that investment back to places like Coatesville. and it allows for investment both in real estate development and in private individual companies. So it's a very broad brush kind of a tool. What are the basic components of the Opportunity Zone program? One, the Opportunity Zone. I'll talk more about that in a second, but basically the federal government set up a level of distress criteria, identified communities all over the country that met that distress criteria, and then told the governors of each state, you pick 25% of the census tracts that meet that criteria, and you send them to us and we'll designate them. We'll discuss that in just a second. And the other piece of that is the investment tool. So you now have opportunity zones, places where the investment can go. Now there is a mechanism to take this private money and invest in these zones that we just described. So, opportunity zones, how many of these things are there? Across the country, 8,700. In Pennsylvania, 300. There were 1,200 eligible census tracts. The governor had to select 25%. Voila, if my math is correct, 300 is approximately 25%. That's how many are in Pennsylvania. And 98 of those are in the Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, southeastern Pennsylvania region. And guess what? 4 census tracts in the city of Coatesville made that count. And effectively, that's really going to end up being one opportunity zone because it's all 4 tracts here in the city. It's the only opportunity zone in Chester County. So we're here in Coatesville, we're in a very advantageous position to be the only opportunity zone in Chester County. The key is how do we take advantage of that? Again, that's the map. The only part of Coatesville that wasn't in there is because of the way the census tracts are identified. It's the stretch that goes up along the road up to the Marriott. So what does this mean if you're an investor? Why should I invest money, and how did the federal government try and encourage investment in places like Coatesville? So if you are a company owner, a wealthy individual, and you incur what's called a taxable event by virtue of selling stock or selling a company, you trigger a capital gain, which means you have to pay tax on the revenue you generated from that sale. So under this program, you're allowed to defer, meaning not pay it right away, you still owe it, but you don't have to pay it right away. You can defer those capital gains for a significant period of time. In addition, if your investment stays in the opportunity zone for at least 5 years, you get to not pay back 10% of what that tax was. And if it stays in the zone for 10 years, you get an additional 5% that you don't have to pay back. So figure that math. If you owed $100,000, you stay in for 5 years, you pay back $90,000. You stay in for 7 years, you only pay back $85,000. You save $15,000. So it can be a big number. It can be a big number. And then, really, perhaps in many ways, the most important part of this is whatever you invested in. If you invested in a real estate project, if you invested in a private company, and you keep that investment in for 10 years, and then later on that thing gets sold, a piece of real estate or the company, you don't pay any taxable gains on the gain on that investment. So it's a potentially very powerful tool for people in the private sector who have money and who like to shelter or avoid paying taxes. Peter Bars is here. He can correct any of my miscalculations here.
So far, so good.
All right. Thank goodness. So what does that mean for a place like Coatesville? So first of all, we have this program, this tool, that's trying to drive capital to places like Coatesville. And for a long time, that kind of money wasn't running around here. We didn't have people saying, hey, can I bring my money and invest in Coatesville? Just wasn't what was happening. And by the way, Coatesville wasn't the only community suffering. There's plenty of communities were, but it's a problem. If you don't have private capital, it's hard to get stuff built. It's an alternative to public funding. As I mentioned, if you wanted to get the federal government to do something, usually it's a grant program. The regulations are 50 pages thick, if not more. Getting the money is hard. Managing it's hard. This is really a pretty easy process to use. If you're a private investor, you get to self-certify. You just send a form into the IRS and say, I'm an opportunity fund. I'm going to invest in these communities. And obviously now you got to find those communities to invest in, but as federal programs go, this one's a pretty easy one to operate on, at least so far. They're still working on the regulations. It'll probably get more difficult over time. because people always figure something out, and then the government has to come back and rewrite the regulations. But right now, it's a pretty flexible program. And most importantly, I think, for Coatesville, because here's one of the challenges from an economic development point of view with Coatesville. There's not a lot of land. Look around, it's a pretty much fully developed community. You know, other communities in Chester County and around the country might have hundreds of acres or thousands of acres waiting to be developed. Not true here. There's a limited number of parcels that are vacant and ready to be developed. So we want to capture that piece of it as well, but this program allows you to invest in businesses that are going to grow. Because at the end of the game, the only way you make this money is if the business is ultimately sold and you get a capital gains and save that money. But you can invest in businesses as well as real estate. So it's a pretty powerful tool with a pretty broad range of potential impacts. So I've covered a lot of stuff here at a very high level. There's an awful lot more information. I'd be happy to answer questions at the end of the program if you have them. But let me just summarize. So this is a new federal program. It didn't exist before. It has significant investment potential. It's a word I'm always concerned about, potential. It means it might happen, but it might not happen. In our case, because we got a designation as an opportunity zone, 4 of them, but most of the city, we're in the game. We're alive and in the game. We kind of, if you're thinking in poker terms, we ammied up. We're in the game. Now it's a question of how do we make this work for Coatesville? Problem is, we're not in the game by ourselves. There's 8,700 other people sitting at the table, and those people that have this investment money can put in any one of those 8,700 other zones. So we're in the game, but there's a lot of competition. And so there are no guarantees. We don't know if somebody's going to come here right now and invest their money under this program in Coatesville. We hope they will. We hope they find the right projects and make the right investments. And that's the real challenge going forward. How to make this program work here. Again, there's a lot of questions, a lot of issues about what this might mean, but we're in the game, we're in the competition, and the next step, I think, is to figure out how to make it work here. So I'll stop there, and I will introduce Jim DePetris. He can tell us a little bit more about the Gateway project. Maybe they're going to use the opportunity zone somewhere down. Oh, one last thing. In the back of the room, for those of you who want a little quick information piece, there is a summary sheet that describes the opportunity zone program. So grab one on your way out if you didn't already. Jim? Yep.
Good evening. I'm Jim DePetris, DEPG. We've been in Coatesville about 4 years. Our company is based out of this meeting. We're very active in development in the Pocono Mountain region. This, you may recognize, this is the Stroudsburg market where we've built quite a few commercial projects. But this is the Bartonsville area, where all that retail we built over the last 15 years. But our real passion is urban development. With me tonight, by the way, is my brother Mike and Maria Aristone, president of Legend Properties, which is our sister company. That red dot is our location. We think we're the bullseye of the market. And our goal is really to do a project where people will come shop from the local area, but also, like years ago, where everyone came into the city to shop and eat. And we certainly have the right location to make that happen. This is our project, traffic light on the corner. You see right now fences up around our entire development. What you see in blue is parking lots that are being developed right now. They'll be completed by the early fall, and they will basically provide parking for our phase 1 of our development, which is in the Cultural Society building, the Aruga Steakhouse. We'll talk a little bit more, a sports bar that we'll talk a little bit more later. The green you see on the corner, that is a future phase. We're searching really for an anchor tenant. We are working with some major hotel flags right now that we're very keen on. We think doing an urban downtown hotel would be very beneficial to everyone. That would have other retail with it, parking, and other restaurants. On the south side, the old bank, it was built in 1857, that we are planning to do another restaurant, probably an Italian restaurant. So this is a lot of density that's going there at the intersection, about 50,000 square feet of commercial space totally. We're going to make an impact. This is a view of our building. It'll actually be higher if it's a hotel, because there'll be a third and fourth floor to the building. Right now, we did discuss this with City Council at the last meeting. I think there's a lot of enthusiasm for a hotel at this corner. But we're frankly looking to get it's a 3-phase project, and we're looking to open our first phase, the Arugas, right after the turn of the year. One thing we're doing is a lot of improvements to the city. Not sure what happened to this, but we're between us and the city, there's a lot of improvements going at the corner. Right there, this is a view of it. The city is doing Route 83, and we're doing improvements to Lincoln, and we're also completely rebuilding Diamond Street. Right now, Diamond is really an alley. And when we're done with it, it'll be a real street with curbs, lighting, sidewalks, and will be the main entrance to our project. So we think this is very important that not only are we going to have exceptional buildings, but to have the outside, the streets really set up in a quality manner. So one of the things that you have here is, first off, our property. We own all the ground, no options, we own everything. It took us about 2 years to do that, and about probably 7 or 8 properties that we bought. We did have a major environmental problem that has just now been cleared. There was a dry cleaner on the corner of that, and that took quite a bit of effort and money to solve. We did go through, our project is fully approved, City of Coatesville, DEP, and PennDOT. And that was a lot of effort with great team members, Panomi engineers, Bernard architects. So a lot of effort, but our project is fully baked, ready to go. And it basically took some time. We were very fortunate with a lot of support to get state dollars from DCED. The commissioners were very helpful, City of Coatesville. So we put together a RAC refinancing as well. So in order to make a project like this go, it does take the ability to bring in some dollars to lower the cost, because the rents we're looking to get here are half as much as they're charging in Malvern, Pennsylvania, where they just built some new stores off the turnpike slip. And one of the things that you find, and we're not undaunted by it, is that Coatesville has a reputation of being not business friendly. We don't find it that way. We've been very pleased with the reaction to our project and what we're trying to accomplish here. But it is something that, one of the reasons we're doing this Aruga sports bar is because we believe in the city, we believe there's business to be done here, and we think by doing this and opening this business and having it be successful, that others will follow. And this is an outline of why we think we're going to be successful. First off, our location is amazing. The demographics of the trade area, it's not just Coatesville, it's also the surrounding areas. We've had great support. We've been able to seek good public money. And what we're doing here is not new. You're seeing many of these projects happen in downtown America. We have a great team, and we have a strong experience in development, particularly in urban development. So, and there's been a big commitment by all the players, Second Century, the City of Coatesville, many others, the county, the Chester County Economic Development Office, all pulling together to try to get things on its feet here. And these are just a few examples of success stories that have happened in Chester County. We did a lot of work in the early years, 25 years ago in Westchester, bringing Iron Hill in and many other restaurants. The same things happened in Kennett Square, Phoenixville, Manayunk, and of course Northern Liberty, where you had a pioneering developer who just revolutionized Fishtown, Kensington, and many, many areas there. And this is what's coming. This is the Coatesville Cultural Society. Arugas is a franchise out of Harrisburg area. They have 20 restaurants. 8 of them they own corporately, and they franchise, and that's why we're getting in this business, because these people are very tuned in to how to make a restaurant successful, because we're real estate guys, but they've really been very tuned in. We're actually going to start construction in about 2 to 3 weeks on the interior of the building, and we think the tenant work will start sometime in the early late fall. This restaurant will have about 300 seats. We'll have some outside seating that we're going in front of City Council in a couple of weeks on, just to the left. We'll be making some beer with limited vaults, but basically it'll be great burgers, great wings, and great beer. Okay, so we're looking forward to doing this and having it open in January, February. And our goal is to make the Super Bowl. So that's who we are. Any questions? I'd be happy to answer. We'll see you all at our grand opening. I'd like to introduce Uriah Cole.
Good evening, everyone. First, I promise we'll try to make it a little bit cooler in here next time. But anyway, so a lot of what I do is resident driven. And through my conversations with residents, we hear a lot about residents wanting to know where to get access to resources. Now, we know there are already avenues available, but not everyone accesses information the same way. So through a partnership with the county, the city, the library, maternal health, we created the Coatesville Community Connections position at the Coatesville Library. We think that's a central location that a lot of residents know, kind of like Ash Park. When you think Coatesville, you think Coatesville Library. We changed the communications connectors position from maternal health to a library. We changed the hours to accommodate evenings and Saturdays so we can make sure we're accessing more people. And the young lady that we have staffed there is the Maris, who's here with us. And if you don't mind, I will let her speak to you guys for a quick couple seconds to just introduce herself and let you know kind of who she is.
Hi everyone, my name is Damaris Pagan, and I'm from Maternal Child Health Consortium. I'm located at the Coatesville Library doing community connections. I do help the residents here in Coatesville with rental assistance, utilities, any help that they need, I help them with in better connections.
Damaris is Damaris is awesome. A lot of people love her, and she has a heart to serve. And I think, given what we're trying to do to provide residents with access to resources, I think that's the exact right person. So thank you very much, Damaris. Now, again, her position is more than just referring people to organizations, but it's also making the connections, bridging the gap. So it's making appointments while the person's there. If for some reason they can't get transportation there, she can help them figure that out as well. So it's more than just saying go to this organization, but it's, hey, let me come sit down with you and connect with that person and maybe answer questions that you may not be able to answer if you go there yourself. So we're hoping this provides residents with another resource, another means to just find out what's happening and how to get resources that empower their lives. Another issue that we hear is residents are like, what the heck is going on in Coatesville? What can my kids, my family, what's happening in the community? So we've been partnering with the city to work on a Coatesville community calendar. This is a timely calendar that we think is going to be a great resource for residents. It has the ability to pull information from multiple sources. It's easy to manage, so what we're trying to avoid is creating something robust that's hard to manage and it fizzles after a couple months or so. This is a calendar that we feel it's going to benefit the residents because it's always updated. It's a public calendar. It can be posted on many websites. Though we're hoping to host it on the city's website, still kind of working with them on that one. but I think they are on board and they've been a great partner with this issue. So, in the next coming update, hopefully we'll get you a better understanding of where this calendar is gonna be and how residents can actually engage in it, because residents can also submit events that they're hosting. I see this Pamela up there who has a lot of events going on. So residents can also submit information and, more likely than not, it will be approved and put on the calendar. And then this just gives the community a better chance to find out what's happening. Finally, we hear a lot about vacant properties and home ownership. Now, we know in Coatesville, over 64% of residents rent. At the same time, we know that there are a majority of vacant properties in the city, and a lot of these residents.
Can you speak up a little?
I'm sorry. A lot of these residents live in the same area with these vacant properties. So we know over 64% rent who want to own homes, and we know they're living in areas with vacant properties. So, we're working with the city to figure out how can we address those issues. Now, what we're looking to do is a home ownership repurpose initiative. And let's just say, for example, the county awarded Housing Partnership $400,000 to work on homes in Coatesville. So what would happen, ideally, if we could work with landlords, homeowners, and acquire the vacant homes, have the Housing Partnership rehab them, maybe work with a local resident who has contracting skills to rehab a home, and then repurpose those homes to Coatesville residents, while at the same time, we have a lot of home ownership programs within the city, so connect those home ownership programs to the end goal, which is the city's working on vacant homes that we know we can get residents into. So that is the kind of meaningful steps that we're looking to take to not only get residents into homes, but again, make sure that as development happens in the city, we're also developing the residential neighborhoods, and residents are also benefiting from said development that's going on. The intended outcomes for all these goals are evident here, and I think that as a community, it really comes down to just caring about people, wanting to better people's lives, wanting to help them better their lives, and we see a lot of residents here want to do that. So let's make sure we're providing resources that we can readily make that available. I think that also the vacant home initiative is also going to increase the revenue for the city, which enables their capacity to serve residents even more. So that's also a very good positive initiative that we're hoping to implement. If you would like to find out more information about what we're doing, you can visit our Facebook Growing Greater page. It's Coatesville Growing Greater. You can visit our Second Century Facebook page. It's Second Century Alliance. And before I go, in the spirit of communication, we work really close with Brandywine Health Foundation, and they are hosting a Let's Talk Coatesville session on Thursday, August 1st from 5:30 to 7 p.m. at the Chester County OIC here on 5th Avenue. If you haven't been to a Let's Talk event, which they've done a couple, it's really informative. It's a great chance for residents to come out and dialogue as a community about what's happening in their community, what they would like to see. And I know from what I've seen with Brandywine Health Foundation, what they hear at these events, you're most likely going to see some kind of result happen because of those communications. So it's not just talk, but it's also action coming from that talk as well. So I encourage you to please come out, reach out to Brandywine Health Foundation, and support what you're doing. A lot of good work happening in the city, and we're just glad and proud and happy to be a partner in all of those initiatives. So thank you very much. I will go ahead and introduce Sonia Hunsinger, who most of you already know. And, thank you guys for coming out. Appreciate it.
So you'll remember from the last few updates, we talked about the Wells Fargo Regional Foundation, and consistent with our plan, Darius was the individual that was brought on to do the community coordinating and the neighborhood strengthening portion of that plan. But you can also see from this that downtown revitalization is a high priority for us too. So last year, we made an application to the Department of Community and Economic Development at the state for a neighborhood partnership grant. This is a tax credit program that allows private donors to contribute to our 501c3 in exchange for state corporate tax credits. We were fortunate enough to secure 2 donors from the private sector who committed $50,000 each per year for 6 years. That's a 6-year commitment. That is a long time commitment, but they recognize the importance of a long-term strategy in revitalization. They realize that this doesn't happen overnight. So this grant has allowed us to bring on a full-time downtown manager. And as a vested partner in the revitalization of the city, the Chester County Commissioners and the County Department of Community Development, I think I saw Pat here. Thank you, Pat. They had agreed to be the employer of record for this new position. So the grant pays for the salary, but the county is the employer of record and supports the position with the extra benefits. So I am pleased to introduce our new downtown manager, Charles Green. Stand up. All this started last week. So I can promise you that we're gonna put him up here next community update when he gets his feet under him a little bit. But Charles is gonna be focused solely on implementing our downtown revitalization plan, and he'll be giving you his own report in September. Our next community update will be in September. We're gonna give him a little bit of a break, a little bit of a pass this time. So this grant not only supports Charles' position, a little crowded up here. Got it, we're good, thanks. But it also provides capital for a facade grant improvement program and a sustainable, clean, safe, and green program for downtown Coatesville. So I'm gonna run through the main objectives, but there is a tactical application plan that I will upload onto our website if you wanna delve a little deeper into it. But the main points are these. Number 1, eliminate blight and improve existing businesses. So we've put together a business retention survey that will help us better understand what support services our existing downtown businesses need to strengthen and grow. And Charles is actually working on that not while we speak, but this week, right? Second one is to first one is to eliminate the blight. That we're gonna work on with the facade improvement program. Second one is to retain those existing businesses with the retention survey. 3 is to expand upper floor and multifamily residential opportunities. And this requires a lot of work in building relationships with those property owners. We recognize that a downtown resident spends 16% more in a downtown business than anybody else. And so meeting this objective is a function of working directly with those property owners to make sure those upper level residential units are of high quality and that any new development will include upper floor residential. Objective number 4 is attraction and recruitment. We want to make sure that we are attracting the right types of businesses. Over the next few years, we'll employ a proactive approach to the recruitment of the right mix of retail, restaurants, and downtown businesses. Number 5, ensure a welcoming downtown environment. This involves keeping it clean, keeping it safe, and making it green. So I've been promised that we're actually gonna get some real trees in the sidewalks in downtown Coatesville. We'll be working with the city on streetscape improvements. We'll put regular litter pickups, the right lighting, street trees and plantings, and welcoming amenities like benches and public art. And lastly, but most importantly, promote and celebrate downtown Coatesville, the businesses and the environment, the retail environment through branding, marketing, and special events. So we'll put the full plan on our website, like I said, if you want to delve deeper into the tactical application steps for taking to meet these objectives. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, you can always get in touch with us at the Second Century Alliance. So with that, I'd like to open the floor to any questions for any of our presenters tonight. They're all still here. Anybody have any questions? None. Okay.
Question for the gentleman that runs Legend, our property.
Jim?
Jim, I know. Jim, first of all, I'm Paul Chambers, and I really appreciate what you're doing. One of the things that sticks out in my mind is that we ensure that these companies, that I mean, people that we're bringing in, that we look at the residents and we give them opportunities to get really jobs, that we look at the neighborhood first and we look at the neighborhood that way. How do you really feel about that?
Well, to tell you the truth, we're very committed to helping get local employees. When we knocked the buildings down, we made it a point with the contractor to go to them and say, you need to hire local labor. They did. And with Arugas, we're going to see exactly that. In fact, Arugas has a part of their program is a local training center. So we'll be doing that and interviewing and training local people to work in the restaurant.
My question is also for Jim. Apropos to your last point is what can we do to make the entrance, the gateway to Coatesville at First Avenue and Route 82 to become more attractive to people that are walking in? Not the construction that's going on right now, but particularly the property itself. Particularly the property behind the property, where you have the campuses hanging all over the place and looking very ugly. I think that we need to do some work that will promote what we're trying to do, make Coatesville more attractive. When you come into Coatesville from Route 30 West, that's what you see. So that's the area that we need to make more attractive. And I think it's up to Jim to do some work on that.
So first off, yeah, our building, the Cultural Society, did need some work, and actually, on a temporary basis, we did make those repairs. If you would go there today, you'll see that those canvases and all that, which were kind of battered by weather, are gone. But they're going to be replaced by a whole new facade on that western wall of the Cultural Society building. And we're hoping the restaurant on the old bank will do a very attractive mural picture on that building, facing people traveling into the city. You saw the elevations that we're doing on our new construction side. So, in fact, we work closely with the city, and Mike Trio, who's here, knows this, that we went through an extensive design criteria so that building is something that the city, endorsed. So it is the gateway, and we named it the gateway for that reason. This is the entrance into the city, and this will be the statement. This is where, I remember someone telling me once with the RDA that, a lot of the revitalization is on our shoulders here. We came to town thinking that we were going to piggyback the train station. Well, that's going to happen, but it's taking a little longer, and we're really hoping to pull out of the pack and lead the way.
Jim, following up on that, on the Cultural Society, I know it's hard, you've been working hard, but do you have a signed lease with the restaurant at this particular point and guaranteeing the liquor license that it doesn't expire?
Well, two things. First off, we're one step further than a lease because my brothers and I are owning the restaurant. So we're putting up the money to build out the restaurant, we're putting out the money to build the equipment. It's like a $3 million venture, and we're behind that. The liquor license itself has been extended for 2 years. We don't think we're ever going to get close to that expiration, but we do have that in writing from the state.
I have a dual question. I hope you don't mind me saying this is a question that's for Jim and part of maybe for Pat. I happen to notice that when we looked at the data that was on the screen, it said 64% of the residents in Coatesville rent. So what I want to know is, what can we do to improve home ownership? Especially among African Americans, because we see that declining. We see that declining everywhere across the board. So what educational tools or what things are we gonna put out there to ensure that, you know, that happens, because ultimately, right, it affects our youth. Our youth are watching what we do.
I think we need to.
I think,
Oh, thanks.
let me just respond real quick. I think, in your eyes, I think you touched on this in his remarks, but I'll elaborate, if that's okay.
Thanks.
I think that is a big part of what we see from the county perspective as the Coatesville revitalization is the increase of homeownership. In fact, this year, there's already been 12 new homeowners through some of the programs that we fund. The Housing Partnership, First Time Homebuyer, 9 new homeowners have bought homes as a result of that program, and then 3 new homeowners at Habitat. So, and I know that's 12, that's not a huge number, but it's a great start. And it's a result of some, you know, I give Uriah's credit and others spreading the word about the opportunity, you know, in terms of homes being available, down payment and closing costs being available, the Habitat homes being available. And I would just add on to Uriah's point that we want to do more. You know, there's a $400,000 grant that is in place right now for the Housing Partnership to acquire, renovate, and resell homes back to first-home home buyers that we hope can make that 12, 24, or 50, or 100 over the next few years. So that's some of the tangible things that are in place, but it does involve the community, getting the word out. You know, any one of those 12 that became homeowners this year, if you've gone through the process yourself, you know it takes time. It takes time to get your savings in place, to get your credit scores in place. So the more it's brought up, and I appreciate you bringing it up, appreciate Ryan speaking about it tonight, the more we can talk about that, the more 10 years from now, 20 years from now, we look back, unlike maybe a Phoenixville or Westchester where residents didn't benefit from the revitalization, our residents here will. And I think that's a big part of it. And I know Sunny's sort of been on message with that from day one of her coming into the city, but I think it's important. We just can't talk about it here. We have to talk about it in our churches and our when we interact with other family members, et cetera, just to spread the word about the opportunity.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
And just to add to that too, so we're bringing up a housing partnership because that's what we've been talking about, but like Pat said, they put so far 9 residents into homes in Coatesville. Now the key also is that the average home price of those 9 homes is $100,000. And they'll give, what, I think it's up to $20,000 down payment costs, closing costs, so it's really $80,000. So it's not only about getting residents into vacant homes, but also getting them into homes at an affordable price as well. So I think that's gonna also increase the chances of residents in homeownership. I'll get right back to you, let me just give this that.
I am a resident homeowner, but I'm on a little quiet street called Coach Street. But I have gotten in touch, and I thank you for coming and connecting with me. From 1 block to our church, we have 10 vacant houses. 10 vacant houses. The value of my little property has gone down because of the blight. The blight, and they've been vacant for ever so long. We have vacant landlords that care nothing about the property. We have Section 8 landlords that just, I don't know how they get past some of the coding, because I've been in some of the homes, but it makes it rough for others when you put people and you don't keep your property up around ours. But again, I'm going to work because I'm one of those block grandmoms. Get your kids are going around the corner. I'm that one, I'm old fashioned. You know, you can't cuss and go past my house. Miss Pam is sitting on the porch. You know, but I remember those old times, and to see my community change in this short amount of time. I'll be 69 on Saturday. But to see my community and the morals of our people, because Coatesville isn't that city that has no hope.
That's right.
I've seen the good, we all work together. We have 1,000 different organizations, 1,000, and we all have 4 people working in them. We have to unify. I always say a puzzle is not complete if each piece isn't in place.
Yep.
We all are important to these pieces. We were all part of this history. If a man doesn't remember where he came from, he won't know where he's going. We put a lot of good history. Good people put down their blood for Coatesville. All of us, together. All of us. So if we don't take these little small things, we need to become a hub. We keep making meetings, we keep talking, but you can see how crazy things are. We don't have the time. So we have to swallow whatever it is, pride, sometimes we don't even know why. You know how you're in an argument, you've been mad at that person for 20 years, you can't even remember why you're mad now. So let's get over it and get on for the good of the whole, because I need to have a nice place so I can go uptown. I don't want to always go to King of Prussia. I remember the time we could. That Coatesville Market, let's open it up before it falls down. And put small hubs of everybody that's struggling to pay rent here. We got to work together. Everybody's important. And you know that little saying, Jesus loves the little children, all the children of the world. Red and yellow, black and white, we're precious in his sight. Jesus loves the little children of the world. And that's who we are, Coatesville Unified.
There is a pamphlet deck on every street in Coatesville, all throughout Coatesville. And our goal is to literally go street by street, door by door, connect with neighbors, and have these conversations. Because you'll find that a lot of people feel the same way you do, and a lot of people are ready to advance this initiative forward. And it's going to take a collective group to get this going. And we've seen that in this room, so thank you very much for expressing that.
Can I just jump on that? One of the things, so we've learned through the Wells Fargo Regional Foundation and some other technical support organizations how to identify small streets and small pockets of neighborhoods that are more susceptible or vulnerable to displacement than others. And we've identified it's called the displacement risk ratio. And we've identified a couple of those streets and neighborhoods in the city. And that is actually where we're targeting, where we're placing a focus on working on that home ownership and those vacant houses. So we're working with the data. We're not just sort of shotgun approach. We're actually working with the data. We've identified those neighborhoods and those streets, and we're focusing on those to make sure, I've said it before, you've heard me say it before, to make sure that the residents of Coatesville are poised to take advantage of the growth that's gonna happen here and not be displaced by it. Yes.
Sonia, could Mr. Green, Charles Green, tell us a little bit of where you're coming from? And we would have liked to hear a couple words.
Well, what a great day it is to be in the city of Coatesville. I'll tell you that much. So thank you for that. Opened up the door. I am a Coatesville resident. I am Coatesville grown all the way through. Many of the organizations Ms. Deb beautifully spoke of, I came through. I was a part of the ups and downs, the roller coaster action of many of the things that took place in the city. So you talk about somebody that understands beyond just what I see in the city about what we need to do, along with what's already been created. I'm a player, I'm a coach, and I'm ready to just get the thing going. I'm ready to execute plays, I'm ready to make something happen. You wanna call me a playmaker? By all means, call me a playmaker, because that's what I set out to do. I set out to execute what already has been set out. And that's exactly what I plan to do. So thank you for opening the door. And again, I am Charles Green, right here on Chester Avenue. I remember before this building was built, I grew up walking down this street. So talk about people that left and are now coming back, it's for a reason. This is the time. Downtown Coatesville will continue to elevate possibilities because that's what we do. That's what Coatesville is. And to just close out, but the narrative that we have, and I saw it on one of the slides, and it said the perception of Coatesville. The first thing about perception and how it is created is by hearsay. It's created about what is said and what goes out. How we change We change the narrative. We change what is being said. As myself, someone who went to school, is now returned, I changed the narrative by starting with myself. I started with myself, and now I intend to empower others to change the narrative of the city of Coatesville. So, thank you. I appreciate it.
Will you be working from Sonya's office?
Yes, I'll be working alongside with Ms. Hudson here, as well as Mr. Cole down there on 2nd Avenue at the 2nd Century Alliance building. Door 26, don't miss it.
Any other questions?
I just have one other question. My question goes to Mr. Legend, and I'm sorry, I can't remember, John, right? John? Jim. I'm sorry, I tried to call people by their proper name. I mean, I want to strongly encourage you, right, to reach out to our youth, because ultimately, the youth in the schools are going to be the next generation. And if they're not a part of this, right, then we're going to miss the opportunity. So, Urias and I talk about this. I mean, we talk about this all the time. If we engage them, and they know what this process is about. I mean, we don't have financial literacy. I live out this way, but I'm from Westchester. You know, so, but I care about what happens right here with the kids and the youth, but they're the bottom line, because they're the next generation. So we teach them the way, we're gonna be successful. Other people will get older, will piss away, but the youth, if we don't give them the necessary tools, financial literacy, how to spend, how to bank, what those things are, then we're gonna be right back to where we started. So I'm asking you and your team to make time to go to the schools, make arrangements with Ms. Perez or wherever it is, and set up something to try to teach those kids so that they know that they have the opportunity. Thanks.
No question. I think that we try to call you guys a visit soon. Okay?
So to wrap up, I want to say thank you to Jane Wilt here at the Brandywine Health Center, who opens her doors for us and lets me get in early to set up. I want to say thank you once again to the Matt Gorham Group. Matt, who's busy talking about everything. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Matt Gorham Group and team, for once again sponsoring this event. And one more round of applause for all of our presenters today. Thank you.
Yeah.